Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I wrote a quick piece about Odyssey in the newsletter that's on the table, so actually I won't just sit down. I'm just going to let you read it. Odyssey is been in existence since 1992 in Spokane. We serve lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender youth ages 14 to 21. We are an after-school drop-in center. We are a 501c3. Our mission is threefold. First and foremost, it's to provide safe space and confidentiality. It's a physical space that is the center, where kids come 3 nights a week to be whoever they want to be. Secondly, we provide educational support. We do educational tutoring. We do practical life skills training. We have partner agencies from all over Spokane County come in to talk about everything from health and wellness to safe sex to how to fill out a college application form, that kind of thing. And the third thing we provide is advocacy. We support them. We work on their behalf. We try to be a voice for their issues, and at the same time we teach them how to be a voice for themselves. And at Odyssey, we just envision a future where we no longer have bullying and harassment of LGBTQ kids, where every high school in Spokane County has a Gay Straight Alliance club on campus to promote diversity and social justice, and where we start to celebrate our differences rather than segregate them. So Odyssey is the only nonprofit drop-in center of its kind in all of northeastern Washington and North Idaho. There are several other Odyssey-like youth centers in the state of Washington. There's one in the Tri-Cities, one in Tacoma, Seattle, and Olympia. I don't believe there are any in North Idaho. There may be several in southern Idaho. So we're just happy to be here and would look forward to being part of this coalition. Thank you.
So, nonprofit group doing grassroots work, and we saw Mayor Cheney here earlier. The city government is another advocate for human rights, and we have with us, and who agreed to say also some brief words, Nathan Weller, who is a city council member of the city of Pullman, and he also brought with him as his guest Pat O'Neill, who is a Whitman County commissioner.
As she said, I'm Nathan Weller, Pullman City Council member, and Pat O'Neill, Whitman County Commissioner. I was kind of astounded, I have to say. Since I was really young, my mom taught me, because she's a special education teacher, to be very accepting of everyone. And through travels and work down in Mexico, building houses in Nogales, and various other endeavors, including a canned Christmas event last year where we raised about, I think it was 783 pounds of food. And that was just kind of something personal that I had done. I became very interested in the regional aspect. Luckily, I had a person at Whitman County who had a similar vision. I had no idea about this coalition, and I'm happy that I now know about it, because in my opinion, now, especially with the cuts that everybody faces, the situations that we face on a continual day-to-day basis, not only at the government, but at regional level, it's a time to come together. And through pioneering efforts with Pat O'Neill, he's been able to get together a group of, a hunger awareness group, along with an individual who I wish could be here, but she isn't, Christine Zacharias, who created, or has been helping to organize an interfaith hunger awareness and homeless awareness group. And Roby is back there, Ms. Bose, thank you very much. And anyways, I'll yield the floor to Whitman County Commissioner Bennett.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here. Nathan invited me to come, and I met Christine at a United Way meeting. I'm on the board there, and she represents some churches. This is back in several months ago. And of course, the monies have got cut there at United Way drastically, and so we get talking, and she talked about this interfaith group, and so she invited me to show up. I showed up. I took notes. I listened. You know, it's amazing how the different churches, how they all cared about people. I mean, that's the one common thread that we have regardless of type of religion. And so, taking that one step further, I knew that a common theme is the need for food is so great in Pullman, and the resources are very limited. We had WSU, and this last summer, when all the problems overseas in Libya, the Libyan students had nothing. The money was cut off. They had no food, anything. And the interfaith groups came together, and they made it happen. And so I decided, I thought, well, why don't we start bringing everybody to the table and start a coalition, start some communications. So I've been the facilitator for that for the last 4 or 5 months, and because we have 2 food banks in Pullman Child Welfare, and the food bank for Community Action Center. And it's amazing when you can get people all at the same table, start talking and put names and faces together, the positive things that can come out of those discussions. And we're moving slowly, but this is to help people. And you know, right now holiday time is our busiest time. So again, I want to thank you and thank everybody else and all the speakers that have spoken. This is very, very exciting.
And thank you to you both. And in speaking with the councilman earlier, he says that he's looking to rebuild the Pullman Human Rights Commission. That's going to be one of his goals as well. And we have citizens from Pullman here who want to participate. So another connection made. We've also, we put a little notice out ahead of time. A couple people replied because we wanted to get the ball rolling. Then we'll go around the tables. We have 2 more folks I'd like to bring up. First, Brenda Hammond from the Bonner County Human Rights Task Force.
This is always a challenge for me, the microphone. Is that okay? Good distance. First of all, I want to say I'm really thrilled to be here. We have grieved the ending of the Northwest Coalition, and it meant so much to our task force in the beginning when we first formed, and we're thrilled that there's a movement to bring us together once again as different communities to deal with the threat of discrimination and injustice in our whole area. Our task force was formed in 1991, and it was a result directly of Bill Wasmuth, Marshall Menn, and others from the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations coming to Sandpoint and talking to us about how important it was for our community to stand up and be sure that all those who had the agenda of making the Northwest a homeland for white people only, white straight people only, that they were not welcome there. And I remember that first night I happened to be sitting up in the balcony, and Richard Butler was there with a group of his followers with their swastika armbands. And at a number of times in the evening when Bill and Marshall and others were speaking, people down below, there were 200 or 300 people in our gymnasium, our high school gymnasium, stood up to give standing ovations and support for what they were saying. And it was so visible from the balcony to see this little knot of Nazis with their displaying their armbands and sitting, and while everyone else around them stood. So that for me was the introduction to the challenge in our area. And so for our first decade as a task force, we worked very much along with Kootenai County on addressing the threat of white supremacy, of Christian identity movement, the patriot movement, the militia, all of these groups that were springing up at that time. And we also tried to find creative ways to deal with it when we had Vincent Bertolini, who was sending out great 6-foot-tall glossy charts of the Adamic race, proving that the white race was supreme and that the Jews were the seed of Satan and the rest simply mud people. This mailing was going out. They had thousands of dollars to spend on this to people in our community who were very distressed, intimidated, and wanting to know how to respond. We set up a fund that they could contribute to, which provided scholarships for young people to go to the leadership institutes that were sponsored by the Northwest Coalition to learn strategies of how to stand up themselves as young people for human rights. And anytime a person donated to that scholarship fund, we sent a postcard to Bertolini thanking him for another donation made in his name. So we kind of took the key from Tony and their group in doing that. Our second decade as a task force is more challenging. And it's challenging for reasons we talked about when we were still together, working together as a coalition. And that is that it's so much harder to garner support and be known by what you stand for, as opposed to what you stand against. While we had these threats in our community, we had Louis Beam, a former Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, who tried to relocate there. We had Bertolini, we had Aryan Nations followers. But when that threat kind of died out, then we had to kind of find out how to redefine ourselves as a group in order to be meaningful in our area. And I think we still struggle with that. One of the things that we have settled on that I think is really important is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And this, we learned about at one of the Northwest Coalition conferences from Loretta Ross. We brought up to speak actually at a conference that we had in Sandpoint. And to realize that economic injustice is something that as human rights advocates we need to stand against. Sue Traver, who is our former University of Idaho educator in Bonner County, and I have been talking about income inequality and the 99% for 10 years. So, whew, that somebody else is picking it up. We are, as a task force now, attempting to organize some forums to let people know, be educated about their rights, about what to do if they feel that they're harassed by the police. We have a lot of anti-government sentiment, and we are trying to promote civility and an orderly way of dealing with complaints and to determine what is legitimate and what isn't, and have people be informed of their rights, to support them in standing up for their rights. We continue to support anti-bullying programs in the school and to offer a scholarship each year to a young person who has distinguished themselves for human rights activity. But we are so happy to be here and to be joining hands once again with all of you. So thank you again.
This chokes me up a lot listening and hearing all these stories, and something that's always compelling for me to say, particularly to those of you that are our students in the audience. These are not stories of stuff that happened long ago and now we're celebrating some successes. They continue daily as we see particularly more racial and ethnic diversity in our schools and in our universities. We get a lot of what I call the drive-by slurs. We just heard about a few recently where Latino students get called different names by others hanging out of their cars and trucks as they go driving by. It's a very casual, almost routine kind of thing. Oh, I just blew them off. It should never be considered routine. We have to eradicate that. And I think because universities are seeds of trying to plant issues of critical thinking and of being open-minded and of meeting new and different people and new and different ideas, that there is this effort to inculcate us with groups like Youth for Western Culture. We had a paper down in Boise say that, it's really not that big of a deal. Southern Poverty Law Center really made a mountain out of a molehill. There's just a couple of people in these groups, and they're just on, 10, 12 campuses, and there's only 3 of them in our inland Northwest at University of Idaho, Washington State University, and Boise State University. That's how it begins. And to disregard it is to our own peril. And so next we'll hear from an individual, Sarah Owen Williams, and she is doing a fabulous project that we wanted her to share with us, and we're grateful she is.